MUSHOKU Tensei Episode 18, Goddess Roxy returns. So Roxy can't communicate? And oh my god, did the anime skip Goblin Slayer Eris? So go ahead and smash that like, don't worry, I got you covered. I couldn't be the only one that teared up this episode. And by the way, a new Mushoku anime visual got released. Are you ready and hyped for Best Girl? And a special thank you to this week's sponsor, Boxu. In case you're craving Japanese snacks just like Rudy, Boxu has you covered, so much variety. This snack subscription box gives you an easy way to get a taste from all over Japan. I just love that they also give you this little booklet that gives you extra info about each one, like some history behind the Japanese snack, or the region where it came from. So when you come to Japan, you're going to be prepared. With the holidays right around the corner, Boxu does make the perfect gift idea for anyone that appreciates Japanese snacks and culture. Especially during these times where it's been, let's just say, difficult to travel. But even better, Boxu has leveled up. Now you actually have a chance to win free tickets to come visit Japan. 5 lucky winners will be getting a pair of tickets. So if you've been holding off, perfect opportunity. Just use my code Foxen10 and the link down below. That way you're gonna get 10% off Boxu. Anyone that is subscribed before the end of the year will be automatically entered. So click the link down below to check out the terms and conditions and the other methods of entry. Japan is waiting. Trust me, it's awesome. There's a reason I've been here like 3 years. At the beginning of the episode, you do see the North God warriors challenging Ruijerd. I was actually pretty happy to see this moved here in the anime. Originally, Ruijerd, Rudy, and Eris encountered this Rodriguez dude over at the Demon Continent. It would have been between the end of episode 11 and getting to Windport City. They actually went on to explain that these human swordsmen come over to the Demon Continent to train themselves. It really is just this ideal place for warriors to train their skills. In keeping with tradition, you do have this new anime scene with the Ruijerd figure being given around. I don't know about you, but I'm loving this more and more. One of the things I did notice the anime change up was that Ruijerd originally announced himself as Ruijerd Superdia, in other words revealing he's from the Super tribe. The warrior dude actually took kindly to this. He was actually happy that he got a chance to spar against this legendary figure. Hey, why not brag about it? And just to confirm, after the first fight, Ruijerd did constantly continue to get challenged. The best part about this is that all of these warriors never actually got pissed off. Rudy thought that perhaps this was only possible since Ruijerd had cut his hair off. Why not just make all of his clan do the One Punch Man training? You originally did have the Mushoku light novel take this moment to reveal some Ruijerd info. He went on to share some of his past history. For example, Ruijerd did confirm he did have the same name as the leader of the infamous Super Squad during the Lapland's War, since he is that guy. He shared how he once broke through 1,000 soldiers, went underground, and eventually got revenge on that freaking Laplands. I'm thinking maybe I should do a Ruijerd video. The anime has skipped so much about him. If you do want to see that, post down below. Next up, bow time. So you do have a bunch of the anime skipped here. And hell yeah, looks like my prediction from last episode was right on point. They had no problem getting Ruijerd into the ship, which is almost ironic considering this passage was as difficult, if not harder than the whole smuggling situation. Time-wise, it did take them 2 months to get over to this port city, and the anime didn't bother showing you any of the Westport, that supposedly looked very similar to Zanport. This route between the capital of the holy country of Millius and the kingdom of Asura was pretty important. The towns here served as a basis of operation for merchants and traders, so it was like another key commercial district area for shopping and businesses. For a little bit of fun info, just like back on the Demon Continent, them ditching their lizard buddy, you did have Rudy being crushed here saying sayonara to their horse. As Rudy put it, goodbye land biscuit. So let me go ahead and give you a quick rundown of the trouble Ruijerd faced getting on this next boat pass. They went over to the port checkpoint, and thankfully Ruijerd had the letter from his acquaintance buddy ready. While they were waiting around for their number to be called, it seemed people were really interested in Eris. Could it just be people being captivated by her beauty? Which Rudy totally did admit that Eris was getting prettier. Although still, she's just a kid. After showing the letter, they actually went to meet this Duke dude, which served as the director of the Millius Continental Custom Office, so the head honcho of this location. As you would expect from someone from the Millius Continent, this guy was not too happy with demon people. The anime cut it, but Papa Paul even warned them about this. In fact, this particular Duke was infamous for his hatred of demons. So yeah, they didn't buy the letter. They even went further and actually accused this whole thing of being fake. The letter in question was from Ruijerd's buddy, some guy that goes by the name of Galgard, which is a commander of the Missionary Knights. To put it simply, it was a high-ranking buddy that used to be this kid that Ruijerd saved like 40 years ago. But oh, you activated my trap card. Rudy tried to play the Grey Rat name. Why not use the fact that they had Lady Eris with them? He even went as far as trying to pass Ruijerd off as her bodyguard, which if you think about it, isn't too untrue. The Duke here claimed he had never heard of Eris, but he had heard about Paul, although this is where the reputation Paul has been building up backfiring, that this guy only knew him supposedly as this guy that was stealing slaves by force. As a way to one-up him, Rudy tried to bring in the name of Saros, you know, the Lord of the Fitoa region. At this, the Duke actually loosened up a bit. He would allow them to pass, although he still didn't budge on Ruijerd. And I'm almost feeling extremely bad for the guy. But then I also recall how badly other demons like Roxy were treated in this location, so it's really not something unique to the Super tribe. Either way, a moment later, hey, Zenny's showed up. Oh wait, it wasn't Rudy's mother, just someone that looked similar. She was actually this demoted template knight. This knight actually has a connection to Eris, which you'll see in a little bit. More stuff the anime skipped. But the main important part here is that this lady is Rudy's aunt, Teresa Latria, also known as Zenny's sister. So what a pleasant coincidence. Turns out that Rudy actually has family in high places. She had even heard about Rudy before. She mentioned that her sister told him about him in letters. Then for a Rudy moment, or should I say lack thereof, with her thick ass hugging Rudy with so much goodness, Rudy was surprised there was no physical reaction to this, perhaps due to her being a relative. Meanwhile, you did have Eris on the side getting totally jelly. Come on, let go of Rudy. Before parting, she did give this final warning to Rudy, that it would be better not to mention the super within this country. After all, the Millius Church hated demons, that they wanted demons to be snapped away. At this, Rudy actually thought back to his own goddess, the one he worshipped. Of course, Roxy being a demon herself, that it might be better to keep this personal religion to himself. Either way, the result from all of this, you had Rudy's night aunt that got them past this checkpoint no problem. I don't recall if they ever mentioned her again, so I could see why they cut this for just time reasons. Next up, Isekai Titanic time. Sorry Eris, you saw her being seasick once again. Only this time, Rudy joined in on the fun too, which actually gets into an anime change. In the light novel, these guys actually got this rare medicine from his aunt, so Eris had no problem during the trip. Now you can see why it's the complete opposite for the anime. Finally paying the price for the anime skipping content. For a fun little moment skipped here, you did see some of the sailors on board teasing them. Oh, these two lubbers. Could they be getting married soon over in the Dragon Realm? To which Rudy played right along. You bet! It's gonna be one crazy wedding. Eris just punched his ass, that it was way too early for them to get married. Baka. For something completely new for the anime, this included that entire conversation with Ruijerd. In fact, the light novel practically didn't mention Ruijerd at all during this boat ride. You heard Rudy bragging about loving rice, which does feel like the anime bringing back some world building skit from the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. If you haven't seen those already, do check out the cut content from those episodes. Getting to the meat of this episode, you have Goddess Roxy returning. So plug, definitely check out my Roxy video for a more in-depth look at her. You get to really see from the beginning why Roxy ran away, the 3 things that Roxy absolutely hates, and actually some fun history with Eris. A little bit of fun you saw in the anime was Roxy drinking with Horseface. So here's an anime change-up. Originally, Roxy visited the Migurd village, then went to the city. So up until this point, traveling on the Demon Continent, Roxy had been hearing some info about Rudy, that all these stories about this supposed dead and impersonator, and the actual Rudy happened to overlap. Coincidence? But in reality, Roxy had put 2 and 2 together early on. She just didn't want to admit it to herself, that potentially she had passed up Rudy without even freaking realizing it. In the anime version, you somewhat saw Roxy realize this towards the end of the episode. As for Roxy and her ex-party members, so 2 of them are dead. In my Roxy video, I did dive into why this party eventually split up, along with just the fun years Roxy spent with this group. For some fun info, you saw Roxy munching on some snacks. These are actually tree monster seeds, which is actually one of the low-level monsters found on the Demon Continent, although there are a lot of variants of it. A little bit deeper into their conversation, you heard the comment about Roxy seeming more mature, and perhaps as me looking way too much into it, you did have that focus on Roxy's crossed legs. Feels like it showcases this more adult way of sitting, maybe even borrowing from a certain elf party member? As for the mention of Roxy's incantation-less spells, for this you could credit, or should I say blame, none other than Rudy. Up until this point, Rudy kept on praising his past teacher Roxy, that Roxy had been the reason Rudy had been so advanced. One of those things included the silent spellcasting, which Roxy definitely could not do. Then, for an anime skip on Roxy's thoughts about Rudy. She thought about how it was more difficult to mentor someone more talented than herself. For Roxy, this worked on 2 levels. It was both embarrassing and also prideful for her, that she wanted Rudy to stop calling her his master. Although just the thought that Rudy always ignored her made her happy. For an anime change-up, you actually had the addition of Roxy freaking out at the mention of the Superd. You know, her going pale, her legs shaking so much. Up until this point, they have made anime Roxy much more frightened at the mention of Dead End. I will just quickly point out that once again it does feel like the anime is taking inspiration from the manga, since the manga did have a very similar scene when the parents mentioned Dead End. It was almost one-to-one. For some new anime goodness, you did have the horse mentioning his wife and 3 kids. This is actually new info that was not at all in the light novel. Although if you actually think back to the anime, you may recall this guy mentioning kids when he was begging to Ruijerd. So it looks like the stallion wasn't completely lying? Or whatever he said about the kids eventually became true. So definitely let me know what you thought about the changes here. Overall, I really love how the anime fleshed out this previous scumbag of a person, of a horse, of a pony, even going further by being the one that gives Roxy that extra push to fix her family relationship. Next up, Roxy's hometown, the Migurd village. Right away, an anime change-up. Originally, Roxy did come with her party, except they actually chose to wait outside of the village. And for the anime emphasizing that almost goosebump, chilling screech. So yes, this is part of Roxy being born different. The light novel originally mentioned her hearing this faint buzzing noise. I think hearing that sound in the anime makes such a drastic difference. You should also know that the anime greatly expanded on Roxy's trip here. Originally it was a short 4 to 5 pages in the light novel, and the anime seems to have adapted scenes from Roxy's own manga spin-off. For example, you saw Roxy finding those stone drawings. You actually did see Kid Roxy drawing in the manga, although this focus on the family is new for the anime. For that healing scene, was it just me or did it seem like her chant was shorter? Of course, showcasing some of Roxy's growth over the years. For the actual group scene, you did have this past scene showcasing Roxy's inability to communicate. This felt like a version of that. As for Roxy's complex feelings about her parents, she really felt like she was truly unable to connect. Again, referring to my Roxy video for something more in depth, that she was unable to use telepathy, so their messages couldn't reach her. Although this just made her feel terribly lonely. For a lovely new anime detail, you did have the family keeping Roxy's old toys. This was a really nice touch to showcase their love. I mean, keeping this stuff decades later. As for Roxy's mom, this whole scene about her looking up words is actually right from Roxy's manga. Keep in mind that the demon tongue is a second language to her people, which means her parents had to hit up the books for her daughter's sake. It almost makes you tear up, that parently love. And then for young Roxy unable to play with the kids, really, straight out of the manga pages. You can really just imagine her feeling so isolated and so lonely. You even had Kid Roxy crying up a storm, asking if she was a bad girl. For a new anime scene, you did have the whole family hugging it out. Along with a little bit of a surprise, Roxy's line here, her apologizing to her parents for leaving without saying anything to them. This seems like it's the anime working a little bit of info revealed much earlier back into the story. Then the next day, which is completely anime original, you heard Roxy being told about Rudy from a few years ago. I double checked and maybe I missed it, but I couldn't find any spot in light novel 5 or 6 where there was a mention of Roxy's parents bringing up Rudy. If I missed it, let me know. Ultimately, this means the whole farewell scene was anime original too. Which, by the way, what does Roxy's papa have against Rudy anyhow? Chill dude, Rudy's like 12. So, did you love how the anime expanded this whole Roxy's visit to her village? Cause I really did. Come on, for the Roxy manga, could they make that into a movie OVA? Do something like the ReZero OVA for the Emilia Theater Special. That would make some fat stacks. Is Roxy more popular than Emilia? Anyway, back to the Demon City. Here's an anime change-up. You now had this new elf live show. Oh, don't worry about it, just Elanese collecting juicy info, with emphasis on juicy. You should just notice how the anime now makes it seem like Roxy's friends were staying at the nearby city, while Roxy took a small detour to visit her parents, solo. And just to clarify, Roxy cannot use chantless magic. The anime just skipped that to have that fun scene, Icicle Break. Which also means Roxy ice wrecking another hotel is new too. Soon after, you saw her wallet hurting, which has me wondering, could this be foreshadowing changes to a certain drink event coming up? Partly since Roxy is low on funds now. Either way, Team Roxy will keep advancing forward. At this, she was only hoping that Rudy wouldn't notice that she had passed him without even realizing it. That would be way too embarrassing. Next up, getting into the anime skip, Eris becoming Goblin Slayer. This is a story of what Eris was up to when Rudy was running around with undies on his face. But they did just announce Goblin Slayer Eris will be adapted as an OVA episode. That's coming out March next year. So if you have enjoyed this, do hit that like, especially if you do want me to do a more in-depth standalone Goblin Slayer Eris video. For now, let me just give you a quick speedrun. No real big spoilers for things to come. Possibly one of the biggest important things about this story was the introduction of a key character, Cliff. This guy was a genius in magic, just like Rudy. Except unlike Rudy, this guy grew up being very arrogant. Fast forward to present day, you actually had the guy registered to the guild and then quickly tried to get into a party. You're not going to be surprised this little bright got rejected left and right. But you might be wondering, why do you keep on talking about Cliff? Well, it just so happens that Eris came to the guild looking for a certain goblin quest. Goblins were the species that lived between the forest and the open plain. They were humanoid and could create weapons, but they couldn't actually understand human speech. They were small, they were mostly harmless, but if you left them alone too long, they would reproduce like bunnies and start attacking villages. If you have actually seen the Goblin Slayer anime, same deal. The guild took advantage of this fact and basically had them as this introduction quest for beginners. Apparently there had been cases in the past of using goblins as a tool to torture spies. Putting all of this together, this is why the country of Millius didn't completely wipe out goblins. For an A rank like Eris used to the Demon Continent, this would have been no problem. And I know you're wondering, why did Eris want to slice up some weak goblins? For this, she gave two reasons. The first really just went to a long-term dream. Eris recalled hearing the boys in her class talk about hunting goblins. One day she walked over and demanded they let her join their discussion about this. This eventually got Eris into a fight where she beat up all three of them. The result from this was how she got expelled from school. Soon after, she met Ghislaine, and you know how much Eris loved her stories. Then the second reason, this is still a secret. To be honest, even I don't know. Anyway, getting to Cliff, Eris actually told them to stop it, that they were being childish. This coming from this little rage munchkin. Cliff responds, "Who asked you for your help?" To which Eris quickly smacked him into the next day. The dude should just be happy Eris didn't crush his beloved family jewels. But for some reason, this guy quickly chased after her, and even apologized. So both of them actually partied up to go slay some goblins. The fun part about this is that Eris quickly saw he was weak and told him to leave. But dumbass Cliff said that he couldn't leave her alone, that she would struggle against goblins. At that, Eris smacked him hard again. Soon after, they actually found this group getting attacked in the forest. It was a group of knights, including one fully armored template knight. Eris quickly moved into action. She used her advanced sword god style technique, the Silent Sword. So good job Eris, she got her first kill. And in the end, she actually killed all of them except one that escaped. Eris, instead of giving her name, introduced her as the dead-end Ruijerd. "Oh yeah, I'm a superb. My ass you are." The result was the leader, Teresa, the template knight, thanking Eris. The end to this had Rudy's aunt saying that if she ever needed help, to just ask. As for Cliff, right before they parted, the dude had totally fallen for Eris. He actually went out of his way to ask if Eris would marry him, to which she instantly shot him down. So Eris headed back and completely forgot about this adventure after seeing that beat up depressed Rudy. So, how much did you love this Roxy episode? I'm so glad this video wasn't as long as last week's. Definitely watch that mega video if you haven't. I know some of you mentioned liking longer videos, but unfortunately it is a fact that less people actually click to watch those. By the way, there are 2 new videos on the second channel diving into Paul's point of view scenes the anime skipped, and more coming. Head over there for bonus, Mushoku, and overall anime videos coming. But anyway, definitely let me know how much you love Roxy. Do check out my deep dive going into the tragic life of Roxy before she met Rudy. Something juicy is coming Friday. Subscribe and ring the bell, and I'll see you guys later.